Hey guys, making another video today. I said yesterday that I kind of wanted to make the next video about cultural Christianity versus real Christianity, but I think instead what's been more on my heart to make is a part 2 to Loneliness with God, which I put yesterday, to go more in depth onto some of that stuff. Where to start off at? I'm trying to remember all the things I said yesterday, so I don't try to repeat them in this video as well. Let's start off with, you're gonna, just to put it plainly, your mental health will tank at some point. That might be one day or a week. It might not be the entirety of the time you're alone or for a long time, but it'll happen. Your mental health will go down the drain, and you'll be sitting there wondering, what's the reason to go to my job, do this or that? What's the reason for any of it? Should I keep going? Should I, give up entirely? Should I just sit here and not think anything so I don't get hurt when thinking about things? But one thing I want to say is that what a lot of people don't seem to know is that while some of that can be within you, a lot of it can also come from evil, like pushing you to feel that way. So if you sit there and just really think about it, there's going to be times where you sit back and think about it and realize, wait a second, I'm really not that bad off, or I'm really not that sad today, or whatever you might be going through or thinking about it. One thing evil will tempt you to do is not to think about it. They want you to just basically sit there and wallow away, not wanting to talk to anyone, including God. It just wants you to sit there and not think, basically, and just be sad. And that is not the way to go about it. I think in this one, I guess I'll go more in my personal experiences. Like for me, it was, like I said in the last video, I had times where, I wanted to kill myself several times, but I didn't. There's going to be times where you feel like, you're going insane, probably. Usually it's not something that lasts, but there will be points where you feel like you're going to go insane. And you just gotta reel it back in, realize it's not going to get you anywhere. Going insane and acting out emotionally is not going to get you anything. It's not going to feel good to let it all out. It can be good. It's good to let it all out if you're talking to God. But if you're just sitting there alone, woe is me, letting it all out emotionally, crying about your circumstances, but you're not talking to God, then that's not going to do anything for you. In fact, it'll probably make things worse because it'll make you bitter. I believe it's Hosea 7:11 that says, they wail on their beds, but they do not cry out to me from their hearts. God's saying these people are just crying and weeping and gnashing their teeth, on their beds, wailing by themselves, but they refuse to go to actually talk to him. God's seen it all. You're not some crazy random outlier. Whatever it is you're going through, you can talk to him about. He's not gonna say, oh, you're going through this, or you feel this way about this. Yeah, you're, garbage, don't talk to me. Obviously, God's there for you to talk to him. There's gonna be things that tempt you, like for me, it was like food, to try and distract you from what's going on. Some people, it's alcohol. Some people, it's partying, video games, anything like that, or a combination of anything like that. But at some point, you gotta sit back and realize, do I actually enjoy this stuff? Is this actually what I need? Or is this really just distracting me from solving the problem? If you're not willing to do that, then you deserve to suffer. That's harsh, but it's true. If you're just gonna sit there and have a pity party, but not actually be willing to solve the problem that's going on, aka go talk to God about it and change your ways, that's on you. Obviously, yes, the topic is loneliness with God. So I know it's not easy. I'm not saying that it is, but you gotta make the choice to go talk to him every day, not once a month or once a week or whatever, every day. That might look like prayer, that might look like just laying on your bed and talking. That might look like fasting and trying to feel close to God. That's how I myself, as I said, and I think my first or second video, how I actually became a real Christian was an experience I had through fasting. And as a result, the Spirit basically completely yanked me out of a bunch of sin without me actually having to put in the effort myself. Now, obviously, at this point later on, I do have to put in the effort to stay away from those sins, but like getting me out of the hole in the first place was all God. For me, that was pornography, cursing, just, how does Paul say it? Perverse speech, hating on others, relying on stuff like alcohol to feel good, food, relying on food to feel good, stuff like that. A lot of videos today about Christianity is like, oh, how do you get over masturbation? Because it helps me get over, my depression, even if it's only for 10 minutes. And it's like, just going to read your Bible for like 5 minutes randomly is not going to cure you of pornography. A lot of men do not realize, because they haven't read the word enough, that it is a problem that stems from the heart, not how science wants you to think about it, which is, you're addicted to it because of the molecules in your brain that release when you get happy. You're addicted to it. Like, yes, obviously, scientifically, that does happen. But sin stems from the heart. So, I'm not trying to downsize the fight against pornography like a lot of men struggle with. But one thing I want to say to you men is that the hill that you see as your fight with pornography, as a hill you got to climb and overcome. Once you get over that hill, there is an enormous mountain behind it. that looks like it's impossible to get past, that makes the hill look puny, and that is dealing with lust in your heart and thoughts. Actually changing your ways and not giving in to lust in simply your heart or thoughts is much, much bigger battle than giving in physically. I don't say that to discourage the ones who are fighting that battle on the hill. I'm just saying that battle on the hill occurs because sin stems from the heart, aka the mountain behind it. Mountain behind the hill. So you need to focus on making a change in your heart over just trying to force the habit away by sheer will, because that doesn't change, the evil within you. That doesn't change the lust that's in your heart. It's not going to change anything. Loneliness can make you feel bitter towards other people, especially family or potential / ex-partners. I myself actually have not had an ex-partner, so I'm just saying that based off of what I've heard or what I think is right. But family members, when you're lonely, you have a lot of time to think. And you dwell on the past and how others have wronged you, or how you feel like others just did or said bad things to you. This is just another tactic by evil to get you to focus on the past and how other people are oh so evil and bad, when obviously God tells us, go focus on yourself. Do not go over here focusing on this other person that wronged you in the past. He'll deal with them. He'll help them. In fact, if anything, you should be praying for that person, not hating them in your thoughts and heart. One thing about loneliness is that it can give you the opportunity to work with God on yourself, which has been one of the best things for me personally in this isolation that I've been going through, is working on myself a lot. Seeing how at first I thought I was patient. I thought I was a patient person, but I realized no, I wasn't. I give in to impatience every single day. Even if it's on small things, I still give in to impatience. So I still work on that. I still work on fighting lust in the heart. Ego, pride, judging others in your heart, things like that. Now, obviously, yes, we're told if plain as day another brother is sinning in front of you, go point it out to them. Don't just let them live out sin right in front of you for the sake of, not judging them or being nice. What you shouldn't do, obviously, is be hypocritical about it or just do it in a hateful way, because obviously it says to do it in gentleness and correction, not angry yelling and, name calling. But back to the main topic, obviously, loneliness. I myself don't think I ever really felt actually bitter towards God during these 6 months. I've obviously questioned why on some things, but I don't think I've actually felt angry, with God, because I realize at this point, being angry at God doesn't produce anything. It will not make you happy. And it is also not right. Because 99.99% of the things you might be angry about is because we live in a cursed, broken world, or the free will of some other person. Not because God just decided to make you suffer because he enjoys making you suffer. God says several times that he does not enjoy making people suffer. As I was listening to it earlier, God also says in Ezekiel, I can't remember, it's 17 or 18, God does not enjoy killing the wicked, not enjoy putting an end to them. There is no joy in that. God would rather see the wicked people come to him in repentance and know him. God does not God, the way the verse goes is God does not delight in ending the wicked, something like that. Or seeing the wicked come to an end before coming to know him. So don't be just sitting there being angry at God, waving your fist at him, refusing to talk to him because you're just going to blame him for the entire situation that's going on in your life. Even though the real reason here is because of personal choices and because you probably needed to work on yourself but refused to do so before you were isolated and lonely. If not, if you were just always kind of isolated, then it could be that God has something for you, that there's a reason that he's doing that. It's hard to say because, like I said in the last video, some situations really are just specific to one person or whatever. Obviously, nobody goes through the exact same life, but, if you've been lonely for many years, lots of times, something like that, God allows because he knows you're one of the ones that can handle it. He doesn't give that to you knowing you can't handle it. As God said, as it's written, nothing that is tempted you is beyond what is natural to man. God provides a way out of temptation. So don't just sit there thinking everything that's tempting you is not fair or beyond what anyone else has to bear or go through or whatever, because that's not true. Being better at life doesn't accomplish anything. It can be very, very easy to fall into that monotonous, daily just being angry at life. But it just drags you down. Sometimes instead of continuously drags you down, it just holds you down at a certain point and doesn't let you get up. But, like I said earlier, if you refuse to change that mood and attitude and being willing to look at and see the wrong choices you're making and change them, that's on you. If you don't want to move forward, that's on you. Obviously, you try to be good every day, but big changes don't happen every day. Sometimes you're gonna have to wait a while for things to change. That doesn't mean it's okay to mess up a bunch from here until the bigger things happen. There's just not an excuse for that. I've gotten to the point where, the loneliness, there's times obviously where it might make me sad, quote unquote, but it's like, kind of doesn't really get to me much anymore in that sort of way. It's sort of like, well, to be honest, for me personally at this point, I just don't really even think about it that much. I just kind of get through my day like how I described in the last video, my routine, doing work and the gym, and sporadically throughout the day, prayer, reading the word, or like I said a minute ago, listening to the word, praying, talking to God and stuff like that. But yeah, I just, at least for me personally at this point, like the loneliness the aspect of loneliness itself, I guess, does not drag me down. And I know that's because of God. That's not because I'm just steel cage mind. You know, I'm not like that. It's because God has lifted me out of that. It's not easy. There's, especially in the beginning. Most of us, in the very beginning of going through loneliness, are gonna make mistakes. I'm not saying you have to change day one, but if you just sit there for years and years and years without making change, yes, that's on you. Be kind to others, even if you feel like life is dragging you down. That just because life isn't going great for you doesn't mean you drag others down. Be mean to others. I know it's not easy to be nice to others or put on a smile or whatever, when things are going terribly. But that doesn't mean you drag others into your torment, quote unquote, even though most of us in America, what we call torment is just, I don't even know what to say it, a down period in life. Even though most of us have a phone, most of us have AC, some sort of four walls around us, a bed, whatever. So the torment you're going through might not be so bad as you put it out to be. There's definitely people with less in the world than you that are happy, because they realize that material possessions, having a job with a bunch of money, having as many women as they want, having this or that, isn't going to make them happy. Being in a relationship with God and loving each other is what makes us happy. You might find short-term happiness in other things, but it's not long-lasting, is it? Never has been, never will be. I just hope that if anyone sees this, that's thinking about ending it all, wait another day, wait another 2 days. It might seem like there's no reason to do so. You might seem like you want to click off this video right now because you don't want to listen to me anymore. You might think there is no reason to stop it because no one cares. But you're counting out God. And I know that some of you are going to think that God doesn't care, but He does. Like I said earlier in the video, don't have a pity party for yourself. That just allows you to be dragged down further. Take a real, deep, honest look at what's going on in your life and what you can change. What you really can change. What habits you can create, what habits you can stop. If you're like feel like I'm beating a dead horse. Like I said before, if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to get better. The loneliness and depression won't go away. Things won't get better. Yeah, I had depression and loneliness and felt like I had no one to talk to when thinking about killing myself. Yet there are going to be some of you that are going through that and don't have another person to talk to, really. But it's just not the answer. You think that's going to make you happy to end it all, but it just won't. It's not the answer. God has much more for you. Most of us who think, oh, God doesn't have anything for me, God doesn't care about me, you have no idea. You have no idea. That's not me saying some lofty idea to get you in high spirits. It's the truth is you have no idea. If you read the Bible, there's many characters, I say, even though they're real people, who would have never thought that, what they went through, where they went from to, they would have never thought about ever being a possibility. One of those things being David. King David was just a simple shepherd, the youngest of Jesse's sons, smallest of them as well, I believe it was, smallest in stature. Just went from being a poor shepherd on his dad's pasture land, I guess you would call it, to being the king of Israel and to being the greatest king in Israel's history, or Judah's history. Obviously, you're going to go through times where you're going through the monotonous wrangling of the sheep, aka your job that you might have, but you don't realize the greatness that God has for you later on in life, like he did for David, which was being king of Judah and being named as basically the example that God gives to all the kings and prophets after David dies. One of the few people God ever calls my servant. One of the only other people that's called that is Moses. For 40 years, Moses, after running away from Egypt for 40 years, he was on his soon-to-be stepfather's land. I believe it was just pasture land, shepherd stuff as well. Moses would have never, ever thought God was going to come back and tell him to go save the Israelites and do the crazy miracles that he did with God's power. You don't know what God has for you at all. You might have an inkling of idea, but really you don't know the extent of it. You don't know where God's working behind the scenes because you can't see it. None of us can. You can't understand it, none of us can understand it. We're not God, we don't have that insane level of intelligence. So don't give up, move forward, realize that there are some battles worth fighting, there are some battles worth giving up in terms of, what I mean give up is, give up like the bad attitude. Battles that you're creating within yourself because you want to keep a bad attitude. It's time to move forward. It's not easy, never will be, but you gotta do it.